Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of the AI Best Business Show. Today with me I have Yazid bin Busias, or bin Buses, if I said it right. Yazid is a guest I've been wanting to interview. He's active on LinkedIn. I've been following his podcast. Uh, he has a business part of him, and there's a wisdom part and how to grow part. I'm interested to tackle both. Yazid, and if I was just to meet you at dinner and you would give me a 1 minute pitch of who you are, what would you say?
Oh wow. Okay. Uh, Actually, I'm not a big fan to talk about myself, honestly, and this is one of the hardest question that, and I try also to always to answer. But let me say, okay, so I am Yazid Al Bsayas. Um, let's say I'm from Saudi. I spent the past 10 years in, let's say, in building companies, building startups. Um, I had two exit stories. I have two huge failures stories. I established right now two active startups, Nana and Supy. And yeah, I'm still, let's say, within the startup, let's say, industry right now. Why startup for me? This is definitely it's also a huge question to answer. This is something we could, let's say, deep dive inside it to answer because I have, let's say, a very, let's say, different type of point of view about companies, building companies, and so on. Um, Definitely, everyone who want to establish, let's say, a company, they're always looking for how much money they're going to generate, right, from those
Right.
companies, from those startups. But for me, it's a bit different. I'm not totally money driven. So yeah, this is in brief. Who is Yazid?
Okay. Before I jump into your different startups, you say you are a seeker of wisdom.
Hmm.
Uh, what does that mean?
Ah, okay. So so actually, let's say at a very very early stage in let's say in my life, um, I ask myself a question that uh, let's say what I'm trying to, let's say, to achieve in my life. What are the things that I want to do, and so on. So once I started to deep dive into answering this question, I found that the main core element about each one of us in this life is actually to invest and to build many things which related to us as a human beings, or as a, let's say, something related to ourself. It's not only about the external things which we are already surrounded with. I mean, cars, houses, money, I don't know, having a lot of flights, traveling here and there. No, there are another world which is inside of us.
Okay.
And also, I found that, let's say, there's also a small secret that anything happening inside of each one of us, definitely it has a direct impact about everything happening outside of us too.
Right.
So then I ask myself, what are the things that I want to change in myself? What are the things that I want to build, let's say, in myself? It's not always about changing things, but sometimes things that you want to build. So what I found that for any human being who they want to be uh, people who they can give more to people, people who they can, let's say, drive an impact on others, either communities, companies, startups, and so on. So I found that there are things they need to build in their minds. And and the main attributes about our mind is not about being intelligent or being such a smart person. No, it's all about to be a wise person. So wisdom is actually the main value that always, I don't think it has a limit, or it has, let's say, a cap that we can say I reached to the highest level of being a wise person. There is nothing like this. This is something always it can grow. This is totally the opposite of being intelligent, for example, or
Right.
to be someone geek. It
Okay.
has some kind of a cap, right?
Right.
So, but being wise person, no, it doesn't have a cap. So you're gonna spend the whole your life trying to have, let's say, a deeper type of wisdom, let's say. So yes, I said that I'm a seeker for wisdom, and seeking is it's also it's another thing. That's mean you always have question you are trying to answer. So, for example, if I answer all my question, let's say for the upcoming 5 years, um, definitely I'm a kind of person who gonna generate another kind of questions where I'm gonna also do my own research to figure out answer for those questions. So I'm gonna continue all my lives trying to do research, seeking for wisdom, seeking for the right. I don't know. So this is it. This is how I look, yani, into my life. Yeah.
I think that's re important because as humans, we don't understand what we are capable of. We always limit ourselves. But if we open our eyes, put a bunch of questions, try to answer them, and look after these questions and keep on trying to see what's out there, how can I improve myself, we could
Yeah.
get to a much better place than we are at right now.
Yeah. Because also if you think that you are that person who answer all his questions, actually what you did to yourself, you eliminate your ability to learn more and to grow more.
Right.
Because this is exactly yani, to to have this kind of ego and to have this kind of saying that خلاص, I answered all my questions, I know everything in this world. This is this is the, let's say, really the point where you're gonna start to downgrade yourself one time.
Well,
So, but since you always have this kind of humility that you want to learn more and more, I remember back at days during our schools. So one of the amazing teachers actually that we had in our childhood. Um, so once we, let's say, we pass any exam or we
right.
gain any kind of certificate, so he always he always trying to tell us that sometimes if you get your first degree, for example, you get your bachelor degree, you think that you know every single thing into that, let's say, kind of specialty or into that kind of industry. But once you take your second degree, you think that you are one of those people who they know everything about the specialty or that industry. But once you get your third degree, you started to know that you don't know anything about that specialty.
Yes.
Because every time your awareness about that field or about that industry started to grow up and to reach a point that you figure out that no, I don't know anything about that.
Yes.
So,
We can
that's
when the more you learn, the more you know that you haven't learned enough or you haven't learned actually.
exactly. Yeah.
You speak about a really interesting concept that you could
Mm.
gain 10 years of experience within 3, and you're always looking
Ah,
to
yeah.
meet people ahead of you in the game.
Mm,
If I'm a young entrepreneur, I'm a young person, and I want to
mm,
get to meet people ahead of me in the game, sit down on the big boy table,
mm,
how, how would I go in there? What was your way of sitting of getting into the room with people ahead of you?
mm. First of all, I'm gonna start to explain this kind of methodology or this way of thinking, but that doesn't mean that everyone should follow this.
Right.
يعني, there is nothing called right and wrong. Everyone has its own way to achieve his things. But for example, this is what I found, and this is what I follow. So I had a concept in my life which I call it the life acceleration mode. So how can I accelerate myself to gain more experience, to gain more knowledge in a shorter time? Okay.
Okay.
So, because honestly, I don't have that kind of passion, or let's say this kind of patience, even though to wait all these years to gain all these of experience. So I ask myself, so to gain 10 years of experience, should I wait 10 years? No, I can't, honestly. And this is it's too much for me. No, I want to gain those 10 years of experience in a shorter time. So so I figured out the life acceleration mode. So what does it mean exactly? To be into that acceleration track, there are three things, three kind of principle you should follow. The first one, you shouldn't say no to anything that you do at all. Anything that has been assigned to you, you should do it. You should achieve it. For example, if the company asks you to look for an office for them, you should look at it. If they ask you to sign with a maintenance company to clean up in the office. You should do that. Why not? If you honestly, right now, I'm an entrepreneur right now. Okay. I'm a CEO of a company. I'm the one who's doing this.
Right.
Okay. No one else.
Right.
So that, especially in the startup, you don't have an office manager from the beginning. No, you should do
Yes.
all these things yourself. So definitely the task that I did in my previous experience, it taught me a lot to do this right now. So you don't say anything. Let's say you don't say no for anything that has been assigned to you. Number two, definitely to be surrounded with people who they are a way better than you.
Okay.
And once I say a way better than you, that it's not always about age, honestly. And for example, if you want to be rich, you shouldn't be surrounded by people who they are less rich than you.
Right.
No, you should be always surrounded with people who they are richer than you.
Okay.
If you want to be a wise person, make sure you're always surrounded with people who they are a way wiser than you. If you want to be, I don't know, let's say someone who is, let's say, a very, very, let's say, passionate leader, you should be surrounded with leaders who they are better than you, and so on. So this is one of the core elements which actually gonna always, let's say, step you up into that level of those people. And also there is a very important, let's say, point into that principle, that you shouldn't also be super attached with those people. So once you
Okay.
reach to a level that halas, you cannot understand, or you cannot, let's say, gain anything more from those people, you should move on to another
The
people
next roof.
who they gonna take you to another level, let's say, also and this way. And a lot of people, they ask me, how can I reach to those people, right?
Yes.
This
That's
is
my question.
the tricky point. I think there are a lot of ways to do this. It depends on how flexible we are in our life. For example, for me, I started to meet those people by doing jobs for them without taking any money from them.
Okay.
For example, this is one of the way. But definitely, I used to have this, let's say, this flexibility to do this. Some people, they will do that by, let's say, getting a job into those people. Some of them, they will do it by, let's say, I don't know, just do a lot of nagging,
Right.
growing up with them a lot until you reach there. So everyone has his own way to do this.
Okay.
But definitely, I think, let's say, work, it's the best things, to have it as a common ground between you and them, either to work in one of their, let's say, businesses, and either to work under them in their current organization, if they are, let's say, leaders in any governmental organization, whatever. So I think this is one of the beautiful things that you can do it to meet them, because not only about to talk with them and to meet them, it's all about how much engagement you have with them.
Okay.
So you
What
should
I
be in a lot with
what I
those
always
people.
what I always say is go find a pain point or a problem that person has and try solving it for them. And this way you'll get a
Yeah.
way to speak to them. Like if I want to speak to Yazid, let me go figure out what what problem
Mm,
Yazid has. Let me solve it, find a solution for it, and send him, hey Yazid, I solved the solution. Can I meet up with you? Because at this point, I reduced time he has to think about this problem. So he's
mm-hmm,
free maybe to sit and think with me. He saw that I
mm-hmm.
have toughness to solve the problem. So he's gonna give me time to speak to him.
I agree 100%. I like it. Yeah, definitely. This is one of the core element also in this point. Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
So
right.
the third principle also about to accelerate your, let's say, your learning, which actually to balance your life in a right way.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people, they misunderstand the concept of life balance. So life balance is not about equity. It's not about to divide everything in an equal way. That, let's say, 20% for my family, 20% for work, 20% for friend, 20% for, I don't know. No, it's not
Okay.
like this. So every single stage of your life, it has its own way. It has its own, let's say, divisions to divide, let's say, your let's say your life sectors. So you need to balance it in the right way. So if you are in a very early stage of your life, definitely maybe work, it will take 70, 60% of your time.
Right.
Nothing wrong in this at all. So every single stage, it has its own, let's say, criteria. So try to balance your life in the right way. So yeah.
Okay. Uh, we got to know who you are on a internal level, and I'm happy for
Mm,
that. Now, let's jump into the startup world a little bit. You
mm,
mentioned that you want to do 3,500 days of nonstop days with startups. You're
yeah.
actually and aiming to achieve 4,000 days and nonstop working with startups. You spoke at the beginning of the podcast, you spoke about two wins, two failures. I want to
Mm,
speak about the two failures. Uh,
mm,
what happened there? Why did these startups fail in a way? Uh, what do you think are the lessons you took out of these two journeys you had?
mm. Okay. And actually, and what's make those failures also more interesting that it happened after two successful stories.
Right.
So I didn't fail from the beginning. No, I failed later on. So so yeah, I think it has, wow, there are a lot of reasons, a lot of lessons from this one. I think number one, sometimes yani, to have that level of confidence that you really know what you are doing, is not always a good thing to have.
Okay.
Um, this kind of, let's say, uncertainty and this kind of, let's say, you don't have that kind of trust that you're gonna make it. Sometimes this is actually the major thing was actually pushing you to be more, let's say, focused and to be
Right.
more careful about how you're gonna achieve your milestones one by one. So starting this with full confidence, not always a good thing to have. And also starting anything with assuming that you know all the answers of your questions, not good things to have. So I think this is number one. Number two, actually, every story, it has its own, let's say, failure side. The first one, I think I had a very, very bad financial, let's say, consequences happened
Okay.
on that
Yeah.
startup. I tried to do funding in a different ways, which is not related to funding by going to, let's say, VCs or to angel investors and so on, investors who they can take the risk with you.
Okay.
So I went to the banks, I take loans, then I started the startup with those loans, thinking that this business model will be profitable in a very short period. But what I found now, I think this business model, it will need years and years until to be profitable.
Okay.
So yeah, so I hit the wall.
Okay. Wow.
And it took me almost a year and a half to went out from this
Wow.
horrible story.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think this is one of the main lessons that always, always, and always, if you are starting a startup, and definitely you don't have, you are not sure 100% about your operational model, about your business model until now. So make sure to have investors who they believe in that story, who they believe in you, and who they want to take the risk with you. So if anything, because in the end, the successful rate of any startup is very, very low. Definitely, we
Right.
know it's a very high risk business. So you should have investors who they really believe on that, and they are willing to take the risk with you. So if anything happen, nothing will happen. So I think this is one of the lessons. The second one, um, uh, let's say the the second one, it has a lot of reason, but let's say the main reason is actually the bad choice of your founders.
Okay.
Choosing the right founders from the beginning, it will shortcut a lot of things in the futures.
Okay.
So having the right people with you definitely is something crucial, especially in the founder suite. I mean, not
Right.
only the leaders, whatever executives we use, and so I mean founder specifically, because the main problem in selecting founders that we always think about the founders now, but we don't think about the founders after 5, 6 years. So because maybe let's say if we are three founders and I'm the CEO, definitely during my work in the startup, I'm gonna grow a lot
Right.
to be capable, even though to lead a company in a very late stage. But
Right.
I'm not sure about the other founders. Are they going to be in the same level? Are they going to grow to be capable for that, let's say, for that late stage or not? So selecting the right founder, this was actually the main problem in the second startup, actually, which
I think.
actually put
Go
us
ahead. I'm sorry.
in a situation that either we break up or either we continue in a different way. So
You broke up.
I would rather to break up. Yes, exactly.
It's an interesting thing. I was reading a book about finding your co-founders, or it was actually a
Mm,
blog. And what they
mm,
mention is when you meet your co-founders, ask these two questions. What are your goals in the next 5 to 10 years? This way
yeah.
you understand where everyone is. Are we on the same page? The
Mm,
second is if this fails, what would be the reason for this to fail?
mm,
And by asking this question, you would know what are the weaknesses or what are the points everyone sees, and you get to see if you guys are aligned or not aligned in
mm.
running this startup.
Yeah, yeah, man, I agree. Actually, I've seen a lot of stories, yani, which has bad combination of founders.
Right.
Um, I think there are a lot of reasons why it happened. And for example, one of the reasons why sometimes founder they cannot continue with each other, that they are not completing each other.
Right.
And each one of them they can do the same thing that the others can do. So what is the stickiness ratio between each other? Why do we need each other? This is
Right.
the point. So this is the main thing. So having founders who every one of them can fulfill a very clear gap in the leadership role of that company. This is a very crucial point. I think the second one, everything can be solved by having, let's say, by having the ability to communicate. I don't know, man. I cannot imagine working with founders that I cannot be friend with.
But
So you should communicate a lot with them. So if you are founders, but you have a weekly meeting with each other, what kind of partnership is
yes,
this, man?
yes,
You guys, the
we have
problem
to
that we are
speak
not
daily.
solving. Yeah, we are not selling ice cream or we are not
Yeah,
selling
that's it.
chips. No, but we are trying to disrupt the market and we are trying to figure out a problem no one solved it before.
Yes.
So this needs a lot of talk,
Mm.
needs a lot of communication, needs a lot of thinking, a lot of pivoting, a lot of challenging. So communication is a cute, and I think it's also is a very crucial part, yani, of this relation. Yeah,
You speak about disrupting a market. You're building Supy right now.
yeah.
Uh, when you looked at the market Supy is in, what were the pain points and gaps you saw in the market that you're like, okay, I should go disrupt this industry?
Mm. Okay, this is a very beautiful question. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of these kind of stories. Most founders, they always tell about how they started their startup. They said,
Right.
I found this issue, I tried to solve it for myself. Then I said, why I don't solve it for everyone? And you always hear that, let's say, kind of
Right.
stories.
Sorry.
Um, Actually, I think choosing the industry, no, it should be something purely, let's say, financially calculated
Okay.
in a very clear way. So, for example, I remember once we started Nana, the way how we are, how did we select that, let's say, market or that industry? No, we selected in a very, very simple way. You know how? So, we sit in the table and we said, what are the two biggest markets in Saudi? So,
FN,
au-
FNB.
automatically, we said, okay, there are two markets, which at that time, this is back to 2014, I think, 2015. So we said two markets, real estate and retail.
Okay.
Okay. Those are actually the two biggest markets in Saudi. We said, خلاص, we're going to start two startups, one in real estate and one in retail. So once we started to deep dive in retail, we found also the grocery retail, it's actually the biggest.
Okay.
So we started now in the grocery retail and we started another startup, it's called Assas in the real estate.
Real estate.
Then we kicked off both startups. The same thing happened to Supy, by the way. We found that clearly the F&P industry is growing very fast. We found that the region started to be a very attractive hub for let's say a lot of people around the world.
Mhm.
Definitely, us as people in this region, as Arabs, and so on, food, it's a very core element in our
Yes.
lives. So as simple as this, so we should build something in the FMP industry. What is it exactly? This is something we're going to discover the market to see what are
Okay.
the ideas in the world, or what are the things that we can solve. So, I'll tell you right now, for example, how did we start Supy? So we were thinking, we said that since 2009, most of the tech entrepreneurs who they were focusing on solving problems related to food business, they were focusing on two problems. They're selling a problem. How can we enable restaurants and cafes to sell more?
Okay.
And the second problem, it was related to, if I attracted a client already and they came to the branch, how I'm going to serve him inside the location or inside the branch, which is related to anything related to the in-dining services, how I'm going to ease up the way to pay, how I'm going to capture the sales, how I'm going to capture the revenue, and all these kind of things.
Right.
And this is also, both problem has been fulfilled already. So the selling point has been fulfilled by the food aggregators or the food delivery apps, and the in-dining services has been fulfilled by the point of sales companies. Okay. But no one really give a focus about everything happening behind the cashier or behind the scenes.
Right.
What's happening behind the kitchen? What's happening with your relation with your suppliers? What's happening with your procurement cycle? So anything related to that part, it's a pain, and everything happening in a very, very offline way. So once we started also to experiment, to figure out what are the problems in that domain, we found that there are 5 problem statements into that domain.
Okay.
The first problem, which is, we call it's a communication problem. There is a huge problem how suppliers are communicating with restaurants and how restaurants are communicating with the suppliers. The way how they communicate with each other, it's super, super, super fragmented. All the communication is happening by WhatsApp, by phone calls, by SMS, by emails, I don't know, all these kind of things, which actually is causing a lot of problem in the ordering accuracy and causing a lot of issues. Definitely miscommunication, that's mean misworkflows. So the second problem, which is related to the collaboration. Right now, also, food businesses started to be more complex on how to operate. It's not about that I have a restaurant with one branch, so two, 3 people, they can manage the whole show. No, right now I have, let's say, brands who they have, I don't know, 40, 50, 60, 70 locations, and they have central kitchen, they have central warehouses, they distribute into branches. They have a lot of different kind of suppliers, fresh supplier, storable product, non-storable products. I don't know. There is a huge complexity. So even though inside the organization, you have procurement department, operation department, accounting department, IT, no one. So how to sync, how to control the workflows between all these internal works happening between them.
Right.
The third problem, which is related, I call it a transactional problem. Also, right now, between suppliers and restaurants, there are a lot of transactions. Their official PO need to be sent to the supplier. Their invoices need to be scanned, and they are receiving activities should happen, right? And if you get to compare those 3 steps or these 3 documents, you cannot find them equal each other. So sometimes I order, let's say, 100 carton from the supplier. He confirmed that he can deliver 80. He delivered 80, but during the receiving, I found that from the 80, there is 10 carton. I cannot take it because it's damaged. So I received 70, right? So it's 100 in the PO, 80 in the invoice of the supplier, and 70 in the GRN. So how much should I pay the supplier? And 99% of the restaurants, they don't have receiving activities at all. So, which actually is causing that a lot of frauds, paying amount which actually you shouldn't pay, affecting their COG and many things. And definitely there are also 2 other problem statements, which is related to analysis and payment. And I'll just trying to shortcut the explanation of it. There is a principle in building enterprise solution. We always say that garbage in, garbage out. System in the system in the end. Definitely, if you're going to enter corrupted information, it will give you corrupted result. So the main point of data and system to ensure 2 things: data availability and data accuracy.
Right.
When the data is available and how accurate is the data. If you can ensure both points, the way how we should visualize the data, which kind of graphs, diagrams, dashboards, I don't know. This is something, it depends on each one of us. Is the easiest part of the problem.
Okay.
But data is actually crucial one. So yeah, this is how we think to start Supy. You get the point? Then this
Okay.
way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we that was really deep into what Supy is solving. Now,
Yeah.
just to see if I understood basically, if I'm a restaurant, I'm using Supy to see what supplies I'm gonna order these supplies through Supy, pay through Supy, and receive the orders through Supy. That what Supy offers in terms of if I'm a restaurant.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you something very interesting right now. I'm an angel investor in a couple of let's say B2B marketplaces in the
Okay.
region. Okay. And I exited from all of them a year ago,
Okay.
a year and a half ago. So because actually I don't believe in open marketplaces in the F&B industry.
Okay.
Why? Why? So, there are two kind of marketplaces. There is something which called an open marketplace, and there is something called a managed marketplace, right? Okay. So in the open marketplace, it's just an open place where you are listing suppliers and there are buyers who they're gonna interact, engage with each other
Right.
by anyways, okay? It's just an online place where people they can do whatever they want to do, like ePay, Amazon, whatever, okay? And there is something called managed marketplace where you drive this kind of transaction and this kind of engagement between those two parties in a very controlled cycle that you're going to innovate or that you're going to
Okay.
design. So for any marketplace that you want to build, there are three main value propositions that you should provide. The first value proposition, which is a price,
Right.
right? You should compete in price. So if you're gonna check to any one of us behaviors in terms of using any marketplace, you're gonna go to the search bar, you're gonna type the item name, right? Then once you find the listing, you're gonna go to the filters. You're gonna filter from the lowest price to the highest price. This is ABCD user experience for any marketplace, right? So a
I just want to
price.
make it. I want to make a small comment. I
Yeah,
like this because if anyone's hearing this and knows the founder is from KSA, how the world
yeah,
knows KSA is KSA are they have petroleum. They're one of the richest countries. Individuals are rich over there.
yeah,
But what you just mentioned is you understand how every human being thinks in terms when they go and search, they want to look at the
yeah,
lowest price,
definitely.
go down. You have a great understanding of the human psychology, and I really like this point. I just wanted
Yeah,
to
man,
mention
man.
that point.
This is honestly for me, it's actually the most critical competency every single entrepreneur should have, man,
Yeah.
which understanding people.
Yes.
This is definitely because, man, as an entrepreneur, man, there are three kinds of people that you should satisfy: investors, your team, your people,
Right.
and your clients.
Definitely. Right.
Okay, those three angles you should make them satisfied. And if you cannot understand how human feel, act, think, man, you're gonna fail in making them satisfied, definitely.
Yes.
So yeah. So just let's get back to the
Yeah.
point. So which is the first value proposition, which is price. In the FMP, man, you cannot compete in price because there is no wholesale market
Right.
in the FMP, which is actually the totally opposite in the retail. In the retail, you have wholesale. So all marketplaces or B2B marketplaces, they are aimed to replace those wholesalers to be a wholesaler yourself, where
Yeah.
you can, let's say, be the middleware between suppliers and between
Right.
retailers.
Yeah.
Oh, if you can do that, definitely you will control the price. Okay. But in the FMP, no, I cannot right now give restaurant a better price than the price which is they already taken from the supplier.
Right.
So this is the first problem, which is price. The second value proposition, which is variety. Okay. So if I'm a restaurant, I'm dealing with 20 suppliers. Do you think it's a good experience to, let's say, go to any B2B marketplace? Then I'm trying to find all my supply, but I cannot find only two, three of them. So do you
Right.
think it's a convenient experience to order from only those two, three suppliers for the marketplace, and the rest of them I'm gonna order from them in the traditional way? It's
No.
not convenient at all. So variety is the second issue. The third problem, which is speed. Okay, all food supply they have next day delivery. So what you are trying to compete with, and restaurant they don't have a lot of emergency need. They always
Right.
have they always have planned
demand. They always have planned, let's say, requirements. So I'll make it easy for you. So restaurant, they order on Wednesday or on Saturday. That's it. Wednesday for the weekend, Saturday for the weekdays. That's it, man. As simple as this. So the delivery also is not a very critical problem for them. So if you are an open marketplace and you cannot fulfill the price and you cannot fulfill the variety and you cannot fulfill the speed, I'm not saying that you have to fulfill all of them. At least try to master one of them. And then, by the way, we suffered a lot for this. We were not capable to compete in price, and we were not capable to compete in variety, and we were not capable to compete on speed. But we said we should figure it out. So we did a huge pivot in our business model to move into the dark store, and we focused to compete on speed. Where we said, I'm not giving you a variety. It's only 1,500 SKUs for your daily needs. Okay, I'm not providing you with the best price because it's actually a luxury service. You should pay for it. But I'm gonna compete in speed. I'll deliver it for you in 10 minutes. Okay. Which is something our consumer they needed. So I don't believe in open marketplaces. So that's why in Supy we moved into a managed marketplace. So to build a managed marketplace, you should start in a very clear steps to reach to a level where you can say, I have a marketplace. Okay. The first part that we should start with is actually to focus on one party from the whole parties in the ecosystem. So in our ecosystem right now, we have suppliers and we have restaurants, right? So in the beginning, we said we're going to focus only on the restaurant, where we're going to create a very strong, clear value for our restaurants. How we're going to do that? We're going to build a SaaS system. We're going to build a very strong SaaS system for those restaurants where they can rely on 100% to streamline all their procurement process. Okay. So this is what we are building right now. So that's why we are creating, and our retention rate is crazy, honestly. We create a very, very huge stickiness with our clients. So, and we said to them, once you start, add all your current exist suppliers that you are dealing with right now into the system and start to order from them immediately. Okay, so this is how we flip the table. So once we create that attraction with all restaurant, then after that we're gonna start one by one to influence the supplier and to get them in place. Then we're gonna create something which we call it procurement as a service. Okay. So we're gonna move from being a software as a service to become procurement as a service. And this is where we're gonna, let's say, merge that relation between supplier and restaurant in a very, very, let's say, mature way. Once we recommend any supplier to any restaurant, no, we study the restaurant needs very carefully. Because, for example, if I'm a restaurant, if I want to order meat, no, man, this is not enough for me. There is a very detailed requirement I needed from the chef to tell me exactly what kind of meat he wants, what the percentage of fat, what the percentage of meat, what's the percentage of what, I don't know. And this all is custom, even though manufactured from all suppliers, different kind of bread, different kind of sauces, different kind of thing. So we're gonna reach to that where we're gonna be the experts, where we can recommend suppliers to restaurant, and we can recommend restaurant to the right suppliers, and so on, to manage that relation between each of them. And this is where we're gonna create a very clear value for them. Yeah. Okay. So you're basically taking a process that's fragmented. Instead of calling on WhatsApp and sending a text message about the orders I want, you're gonna have them in one system, organize them, and help have this process be much more easier. Exactly. Not only easier and more efficient from all, let's say, aspects. I could see the value part on the restaurant part. If I'm a supplier, why should I deal with Supy? Amazing. Okay, so this is actually the second part, which I told you. Once we fulfill all the once we create a very clear value to the restaurant, we're gonna move on right now to create values for suppliers. So suppliers, for example, if you're gonna ask about their problems and what are the things they are looking for, it's two things. How can they sell more? Okay, this is the first part for the supplier, and the second one, how can they collect their money? Okay, these are actually the two problem statements most of the supplier that they are facing, and they want solution for it. And Supy will fulfill those two gaps. How are we gonna sell more? How are they gonna sell more? Because one of the things, for example, suppliers, by the way, they cannot measure retention. They
Okay.
cannot measure churn because they don't have the ability to measure that.
Right.
So they are always aiming and let's say going through the on-spot orders coming from anyone. Okay. So what we're gonna do in Supy, once we drive sales to the supplier, we are driving a very clear and long-term relation kind of client with those suppliers.
Okay.
Okay. So we are really, let's say, doing the right handshaking between them. It's not only I want tomatoes. No, I want tomatoes with this requirement, and I want a contract for a year to this kind of things. So
Okay.
so what we're gonna drive a very huge sales for the supplier. Okay, we are gonna invest a lot in the marketing and the sales for them, or for our, let's say, partners from those suppliers. This is number one. Number two, where we're gonna streamline the settlement process
Okay.
between suppliers and restaurant. Okay, and this is by the way one of the biggest pains. I'll give an example. One of the biggest suppliers in Saudi, they have more than 120 account receivable team member who they
Wow.
are just sitting in front of their laptops to do, let's say, reconciliation with every single, let's say, bank transfer, with every single invoice, calling the restaurant to check to close which any invoice. Then if they close an invoice by mistake, the restaurant will be mad. Why you close this one? I told you to close this one. And you can imagine the kind of communication happening between the both of them.
And you
So
could
we're
do
gonna
that with
automate
one.
this
You could do that with one software. You could.
app software.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
honestly.
so that software is going to place 120 people, and just at what company? Like imagine 120
Yeah,
people are sitting to do the work that softwares do. This is where technology can take us, and this is amazing.
yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So once also we implement this for supply, definitely. Right now we can say that we really build the right managed marketplace, which
Okay.
is we are taking the payment into the next level. It's not only about to choose MasterCard, Visa, and then pay.
Right.
Come on, this is not the thing. This is not the way how we should solve the payment issues for this kind of relation. No, we're gonna take it into the next level. Even though in the selling, it's not only about to have an open marketplace to supply to list their product and that's it. No, we should be an expert where you can recommend the right client to the right supplier and to recommend the right supplier to the right restaurant. Once we implement these kind of things, this is what we call the managed marketplace.
Okay. I love what Supy is doing. I want to take a look back out from Supy to the KSA market, or to to KSA in general. There's a
Yeah.
lot happening in KSA. KSA is growing in a tremendous way. We have 2030 vision. The amount of money that's going into the economy, the F&B sector. I was speaking to Zuhair Haidar. He's founding of Jalabi, and he said how the KSA F&B industry is second after USA in the whole world, and that shows where KSA is going. My question is, what are industries in KSA that are still not disrupted? And because I want to ask you, because you live in KSA, you're building in KSA, you understand the KSA market. I want to understand it more. So what are industries that could be disrupted? What if I'm a founder, I want to build a startup in KSA, where would you tell me to go and build? What industry?
First of all, Saudi, I always say that Saudi is a black hole. So whatever you're gonna do, if you do it right, it's gonna work. Okay. So and it is a very, very, let's say, hungry, aggressive market. So but Saudi has two main problems that, and I totally recommend any entrepreneurs who they want to inject into that market to focus on it in the beginning. We should know that Saudi has one of the most sensitive customers, I think, in the world.
Okay.
Saudi customers are very, 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 very sensitive. So you may deliver, let's say, I don't know, thousands of good experiences into that customers, but let's say at any point you disappoint him, you're gonna lose him
right away.
Let's say right away. Okay. And for example, if let's say if I'm a food delivery company, I deliver 5,000 order to that client perfectly. 5,001, I failed. He gonna remove that.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. That's why customer service in Saudi is a very, 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 very critical. This is number one. The second problem in Saudi, Saudi is a very, very, let's say, highly distributed demographic, let's say, area. So don't think that you can sit, sorry to say that, don't think that you can sit in your offices in Dubai and you think you can grow business in Saudi. It's impossible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's impossible. You should be here.
Yeah.
Not only you or you should have, I don't know,
A team.
a team, or you should have a founder who's in Saudi who's taking care about Saudi 100%.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, don't think that you can compete at all, especially that there are a lot of Saudi entrepreneurs who they started to establish their own. And honestly, I know most of them, man, they are crazy. Okay, so so this is what's related. There are two things related to Saudi. Speaking about market or industries, which is actually not disruptive yet in Saudi, I think real estate. It's a very, very huge market, which actually we started to see a lot of companies who they are doing good job in Saudi. Awaid, Asil, there are different kind of companies who they started to do very beautiful work. But definitely it's a very, very huge market, and still we don't have that much of ideas or let's say innovative way to manage that market. Second, I think healthcare.
Okay.
Wow, this one is so huge, man. I always say that if I didn't start Supy, I would start a startup in the healthcare sector, honestly. I think healthcare is very, very crucial because you know what? Because healthcare also, let's not think about it now. Most of Saudi, you know, all of them, the let's say the biggest segment of Saudi are youth. Those youth in 10, 15 years, they're gonna be old people, right?
Yes.
They need hospitals. They need different kind of, let's say, health treatments. So anyone who really gonna establish something crazy right now, definitely he will take the biggest chunk of that market in the future.
Okay.
So let's not think about it now. Let's think about after 5, 10 years, how big is gonna be that market. So definitely healthcare. It's one of the most attractive market in Saudi right now. What else? I think entertainment.
Okay.
Also. Entertainment also is a very, very, very attractive industry right now, especially that we can see how Saudi is moving aggressively upon
And
this.
opening up
Yes,
in the
opening
region.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything related to content creation, anything related to sports, anything related to gaming, and I think all of us we read that 3 or 4 days ago, Mohammed bin Salman established a new strategy for the e-gaming industry for Saudi, and they started a fund which is actually more than 3 billion Saudi riyal, where they're going to invest in a lot of company related to this. So I think these 3 markets, it's actually a very, very, let's say, attractive industries, and there is no many entrepreneurs tapped into these industries so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that answer. What are you most excited in Vision 2030?
Man, Nani, if you're gonna ask any Saudi about this, it's a very hard question to answer, honestly, because man, Nani, I'm 27 by the way, but even though I cannot imagine how fast is this, so let's try to put yourself in my mother place or in my father's shoe. Yeah, it's they cannot understand it until now, by the way. I mean, they don't know. Okay, whatever. Okay, so I think because, for example, even though just to imagine how fast it is, if you are dealing with any governmental institution right now in Saudi, for example, 1 week ago, I had a call at 1 a.m. Okay, from an employee in a governmental institution. He's asking me, what is the email? I said,
wow.
why you are calling me right now? It's 1 a.m. He said, share it with me right now. I have a meeting at 4 a.m. I said, you have a meeting at 4 a.m.? He said, yes. I said, okay, Abshir, I'll do it right now. 1 minute, I'll send it to you. So yeah, right now, honestly, the let's say the governmental sector, I think they are working more than anyone in the private sector, honestly.
Okay.
So what are we excited about it? I think we have a very clear vision. We want to make the region like the future Europe of the world.
Okay.
And I think we are moving into that direction. And I think Saudi has all the capabilities to make this. I mean, in terms of financial resources, human resources. I think even though how strategic is actually our geographic area, our relation with different economics in the world, I think yes, I think all the blocks are there. But what we need is actually we need to challenge ourselves to make it happen in a very short period. I think, yeah. But all of us are super excited, yeah.
Here's my last question. If I'm a foreigner, I'm not a
Mm.
Saudi, and I want to get to build a startup in Saudi Arabia,
Okay.
guide me. Where should I go? Who should I contact? How should I get into the KSA market?
First of all, I know a lot of founders who they are non-Saudis and they started companies in Saudi.
Okay.
Many. Okay. I think it's I don't know, guys, if you heard about this. There is also a government institution called Munshaat.
Okay.
Munshaat, it's actually an institution who they are fully dedicated to improve and to let's say build the startup environment in Saudi. And one of their core, let's say, agenda, how can we enable also any entrepreneur in the world to build their startups in Saudi. So I think it's simple. It has two things. The first part, which is related, how can you cooperate your company? And right now it's so easy, man. It's all about just to let's say issue your investment license, which actually it has a very cheap fees. Then after that, you can do all the things yourself. You can open your own CR yourself. You can issue your, let's say, VAT yourself. You can, let's say, hire employees. You can do anything by yourself by having that certificate as an investor or as an entrepreneur. Then after that, you can do anything. Either you do it yourself or either you can rely on third parties like, I think you don't mind if I share some name.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Like, for example, Astrolab, like, let's say, Regus, like all these kind of, let's say, agencies who they can facilitate a lot of the works, which is actually related to cooperating your startup in Saudi. So I think it's so simple, man. It's so easy. I mean, I don't see any issues with that. Yeah.
Yazid, this was an amazing episode. I have a lot more questions to ask you, so hopefully maybe in the next 4 or 5 months when you're free again, we could do another episode. But this was amazing. We really learned a lot. I'm excited for whatever you're building, even if it's not Supy. If you build anything else in the future, I think whatever you build is going to be a success. Do you have any plugins, anything where could people follow more of what you're doing? Are you hiring at Supy? Feel free.
Yes, definitely. We're always hiring. But if there's anything I want to add, just I want to say that honestly, I mean, building a startup is not a lovely thing to do. Just, everyone should put this in mind. So once you want to build a startup, you should have a very strong internal, let's say, motivation on why you are doing this. Otherwise, definitely you cannot continue from the first 2-3 challenges that you're gonna face. So yes, it's not lovely at all. You should have a very strong internal motivation to do your things. So let's all of us put this in mind, and don't rush things. Still in the region we are in the beginning, so be careful, be more wise in your moves, and definitely if others do it or if others did it, definitely you can do it. But yes, just don't rush it and be careful about your decision. That's it.
Thank you, Yazid, for being here.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I appreciate it. Thank you.